Good morning. Welcome to Free Friday Coaching. My name is Megan, and thank you for being patient with me and allowing me to be able to reschedule this. Oop, I just now got on. Something happened. So, hey, good morning. Thank you for allowing me to be a little bit delayed on this. I apologize. Thank you for being patient. I had to reschedule a client this week. I've had COVID all week, so yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here. And so let's just get to it. Let's do some Free Friday coaching. I did have a message that we're going to coach on today. So hopefully that is still going to be an option if she hops on here. So I'm going to pull that up on my phone so I can make sure that I am still reading all of the things that she said in the message. And if you haven't ever been here before, I'm just going to tell you what this is like how do you get coached, how does it work, and what we do. So Free Friday coaching is really about you guys being able to bring whatever is happening in your lives here. And that means that you get to say, hey, I've got this problem going on, I've got this situation in my life, and I could really use some guidance to help work through my thoughts, work through all of my big emotions that I have to help me be able to get through that. So because this is live, I want you to be aware that other people will be able to see your problem, and these are recorded, which means it's going to be out there. So please, please, please don't bring something that you're like, this is really super personal and heavy, and I feel like this is something that I don't want to be out there into the world. This is definitely not the place for that. That is definitely a one-on-one coaching situation, which I'm always happy to talk with you about as well. But for Free Friday coaching, what I do is you bring whatever's going on in your life. So maybe you are feeling really overwhelmed by all the things that are happening because your kids just got back to school and you have a major deadline at work too. That's a lot. So a lot of people are balancing, trying to get back out of that, like off the summer schedule and back into a regular schedule. And now we're going to trip over a holiday weekend, which I'm actually really excited about. But yeah, trying to get back into balance, trying to figure out how to handle your baby being at college, how to handle whatever is going on in your life. So it doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong thing to get coached on. It's just whatever's going on with you. So if that sounds like something that you are here for, then let's talk about it. And if Nikki shows up, I definitely want to talk with her. So you always have the option of messaging me ahead of time so that I've got a little heads up for who want coached. Nikki, if you show up, if you watch this and you watch it later, then we will definitely deal with the question that you had about just dealing with some health issues, maybe a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of depression mixed in, and then having to put her pet to sleep, which is always hard. That's something that I think that those are big emotions, and a lot of times what we find out, like especially when I'm coaching someone, is like, how do you really feel? And we like to put it into this big box called bad. But when we start breaking it down, there's a lot of different feelings that get put into bad, and sometimes one of the things that gets put in there is love. Because it hurts sometimes. So we will talk about all of those things. In the meantime, if it's just you and me hanging out here and we don't have anybody that's ready to be coached today, that's always okay too, because I always bring another topic to be able to talk with you that's going to be able to help you if you're watching this after the live portion. You could always come back, watch these videos, and get a ton of value, because if there's anything that I want to do is to make sure that if I'm talking with you, you've got something to move you at least 1% closer to whatever it is that you want. That is important to me, to make sure that you guys are feeling amazing. So let's talk about how coaching can support whatever it is that you are already doing in your life. Because my guess is that you're trying things. You're probably out there, you're like, oh my gosh, I just saw this really great video on YouTube that explained exactly how to handle this. And I saw this other really great idea on Instagram the other day. This person said this, this, and this. And then I read this blog, and they had this great idea that said if I just did these couple of things, then everything would be different. There's a ton of amazing things out there. And if you're like me, you're probably trying a lot of those things. I know, especially back when I was still anxious, a lot of the time, I was doing everything under the sun that I could do to feel better. So because I was doing all the things, sometimes that meant not really doing anything well, because that happens, doesn't it? Like you're like, oh, I'm doing everything. And then I was stuck and overwhelmed and not sure what was working and what wasn't working. So let's just talk about what this is like. You have a lot of different options on what you want to do, and anything that you're doing that you notice is working is great. Don't stop that. Like, certainly when I'm working with somebody as their coach, one of the first questions I ask, even on a consultation call, is what's already helping? And sometimes they say absolutely nothing is helping, and that can be true for sure. Sometimes you're like, I don't know, I try everything, I have no idea. So if that sounds like you, if it sounds like, yeah, I'm trying everything and nothing's working, then we're going to come up with some ways of things that would actually work for you. Sometimes that's, hey, we just need to learn how to breathe properly. I know that seems silly, and I don't mean to trivialize how you feel when you're anxious, because I know that it feels really big, and I know it feels really overwhelming. And sometimes when we think about breathing, it's like, are you kidding me? She's going to talk about breathing again. If one more person talks about breathing, I'm going to lose my mind. And I get that. And I also know that if we can just change one ink about breathing, then we can start digging into the other things that we need to deal with. But when your body is in this place where it can't even breathe properly, and I'm not pointing fingers because I've been there, but when you're in a place where you're not breathing properly, that makes it really hard to get into naming the emotions, to being able to figure out what you're actually thinking, and to be able to make a plan to move forward, because you're just kind of trapped in how you feel. So what I want to help you do is say, let's find some ways to calm down. And that really work without just saying, okay, calm down. That's never going to work. Let's find some ways to actually do it. I want to be able to give you an actual directional map. So I want you to think back. I'm a Gen X kid. So I remember going on cross-country trips with my grandparents. Like, every year for spring break, we would drive from northern Indiana to Florida for spring break. Every year, without fail, for 40 years. I drove, I'm not exaggerating at all. Every year for 40 years, 40 times, I drove from Indiana to Florida and back, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 times a year for vacation. We didn't fly because we're from the Midwest and we can drive everywhere. It was a 14-hour drive, whatever. You get up in the morning, you're there by dinner. It all works. I still do this. It's actually really fun. It might sound miserable to you, but we did it back in the 80s when all we had were paper maps. So if you are a millennial, or you are a Gen Z or any of those, and you're watching this, you're like, yeah, I've seen those paper maps. It's like a foreign language. It's like if I would write things on cursive. So when I was a teacher, if I wanted to make sure my students were paying attention, I would just suddenly change what I was writing on the whiteboard to cursive, and I would just wait to see how long before somebody said, we can't read that. The same is true for paper maps. If I gave you a paper map, my guess is you could figure it out. But it's not easy. And what if there's road construction? Because I don't know about you, but living in Indiana, there's not a road that's not under construction right now. And thank goodness, like, I'm super excited for infrastructure. I love it that we have all these dollars put into infrastructure. It is so beyond needed. I'm thrilled to see it. And it's a pain in the butt. And if you had to use a paper map, you would have to reroute around construction and closed roads with a paper map, which is entirely possible, but it's very tedious. And if you don't know how to read the map, or if you're trying to figure out all of the different things, you're going to get lost. And the same is true with the advice that you see on the internet. If you're just taking all the advice and you're trying to apply it to your life, but you have no idea the direction you're going or how to use the advice, it's not going to work. So it's kind of like switching to GPS, okay? GPS just basically says, hey, we're rerouting. I have to tell you that I don't honestly know how more people back in, we'll call it the olden days when I was a kid, didn't take those paper maps and just say, you know what, I don't think we can ever get home again. We're just going to have to move to Nebraska because I don't know. I can't, this map, I just don't know what to do with it. It was kind of complicated and you had to plan it out ahead of time. So if we talk about what this means for you and really like having the information, it's not that you don't have the information that you need. It's just that it's overwhelming and there's so much of it. When you look at that paper map, there were like thousands of roads and you had to know exactly where you were going. So just like tackling that paper map when you're getting ready to go on a vacation, figuring out how to simplify your life, figuring out how to find, you know, what it is that's going to work for you to make you feel less stressed out, to not have such a full calendar, to not have such a full brain. Like, why is there so much in my head? Being able to find that information and use it to your benefit is so much easier if you've got a guide or GPS or something like that. The problem isn't that you don't know what to do, it's that you're not sure what to do, and that you're not actually sure that you even believe that you know how to do it. Belief is a huge part of really getting yourself through anxiety. And that might seem silly, but right now, part of the reason that you feel anxious is because you're believing anxious thoughts and you're believing how your body feels. And what we want to do is we want to shift your belief in yourself and in trusting yourself to know what the right move is for you, to know what you need to do to be able to move yourself forward. So everything that you need is right there in front of you, just like a giant map, right? But you might not know where to go, and you might not know even like which is the right route. Like, how do I know what the right one is? The thing about navigating where you're headed is that there's not just one right route. It's just the route that works for you. And sometimes we do this and then we say, hey, what if we want to try this? Let's see how it happens. Maybe it's a really cool detour where you get to go do something amazing for a while and then we just get back on track. So coaching is sort of like moving from that paper map into GPS. That's really what I help people do, is to say, you know what we need here? We need some guardrails, right? We just need to figure out what's going to work for you, and we need to stay on the course, okay? So instead of sifting through all of those Instagram tips, all of the influencers, all of the YouTube channels, trying something and then getting frustrated and then giving up, which absolutely won't get you where you want to go, you have to have a system in place so that you know what to do, so that you stay clear-headed, so that when you feel anxious, you know how to calm your body down and think clearly. You have to have a system to do that, because if you don't, you just keep reacting and following the same patterns. Your brain loves that. It wants to do what's familiar. So if you notice, you're like, yes, I know this is the problem. The problem is that I'm overwhelmed because I tell everybody yes and my calendar's too full. Heck yeah, you know that. I mean, that's right there, right? That's not the problem. The problem is why you keep saying yes. Or the problem is why your time isn't as valuable as everyone else's. That's really the problem underneath. So we have to have a system to figure that out, and it starts with calming yourself down when somebody calls you to do something and saying, hey, you think you can watch my kids tonight? And you're like, sure. And inside you're like, I mean, I was gonna go hang out and do this other stuff, but no, I'll do it. That's the problem. So we have to have a system to figure out, okay, how do you actually want to say no? How do you know if you want to say no or you want to say yes? Let's just make some guidelines. Let's create a system for this. Then you have to have the support to help you navigate those situations, especially new situations, because anything new can throw your brain into a fit. Your brain loves routines. It loves security. It loves predictability. It loves definite situations. It doesn't want anything to be ambiguous. It doesn't want anything to be ambiguous. It doesn't want anything to be up in the air. It wants to know ahead of time, in the future, what will happen. We think we want to know what's going to happen in the future. I would actually argue that. I don't think we really want to know what's going to happen in the future, because I don't know that we really want to know the future. Maybe you do. Maybe it's just me. I don't really want to know the future. But your brain thinks it does, because then it can manipulate situations and solve problems in advance. So the way it does that is by creating problems that don't exist to try and solve them, which doesn't really help anything, because there wasn't anything wrong to begin with. This is really just how anxiety works. So what we want to do is, again, we want to have the system, and then you got to have the support to be able to navigate those new situations, so that you start to learn to trust yourself instead of your anxious thoughts, and you start to grow your confidence. And you're like, you know what, last time this happened, I know what I did. I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to try this other thing. And then you're like, oh boy, I'm really nervous about this. Yeah, that's normal. That's normal. It's okay to feel anxious. And I'm going to say, okay, I know what this is. I'm going to keep going through it. And then on the third leg of that, you have the support, you have the system, but then you also get accountability for somebody just to follow up with you and say, hey, you had this big thing happening this week. I know you had this job fair you were going to go to. Did you go? Did you talk to the people why didn't you talk to them? What were you thinking? What was happening? Let's talk about that. Okay. You did it. Oh, tell me more. Let's find out what works so that we can do that again. That's what coaching is. It helps you create those new steps, because you've already got the forward motion. You've already got the motivation to do it. It's really just trying to stay on track and trying to make sure that you're not getting swallowed by your feelings. So all of this, and then the coaching just brings that accountability together. So wouldn't it be faster and probably a lot easier without so many detours, if you didn't have to just keep guessing about what was working and then starting over and then getting distracted by this new shiny object over here, which could be great. I mean, maybe it is something you need to incorporate into your life. But would you agree that it would be faster and easier if you didn't have to just keep guessing and trying and guessing and trying and throwing it all away and never moving forward, just like one detour or one roundabout after the next? Because if you're ready to get out of that place, I'm here to help, okay? So if you're ready to start feeling calm instead of frazzled and like, oh my God, I'm gonna try this instead, let's talk. We can make forward motion your new normal. We absolutely can. So let's just talk about how I can support you through coaching. It's so simple. All we do is we jump on a phone call. And I actually have time later today and tomorrow on Saturday to talk with you. I know that it's Labor Day weekend, and I know that you want to start September off strong because it's fall. Everybody's getting excited around here. I mean, my kids are already like, oh my gosh, let's get pumpkin whatever. And I'm like, it is my summer. This is my season. Slow it down, sister. We're not going there yet. But if you are already like, oh my gosh, it's fall. To me, fall means it's almost winter, and that means it's almost Christmas, and that means I'm going to be cold. And I'm a summer girl. But if you're ready for the second half or the third of the year, and you're like, yeah, it's September. This is my jam. I'm ready to go, but I just want to feel good. Let's go. Let's get started in August. Let's do it this afternoon. All right? If this sounds great to you, if you're like, okay, I just need to hear more. I'm not sure this is for me. I'm going to say right now that I'm like, I don't even think so, but I'm curious. Curiosity is all it takes to learn more. Maybe it's for you. Maybe it's not. But I'm absolutely positive that if you get on the call, you're going to know at least one thing that's going to help you move forward. Even just getting really, really clear on what's going on in your life right now and what you want is going to help you move forward. So if you want to do that, if it sounds like something that you are ready for, message me. Let's do it. So I can help you. Thank you for tuning into this today. Thank you for tagging friends who needed to hear maybe this message about how maybe you see them out there trying all the things and they just don't seem to be getting any traction. Maybe it's your sister who you're like, God, I love you, but oh my gosh, I want to help you move forward. Maybe it's maybe it's your best friend. Maybe it's somebody that you're like, you've seemed really overwhelmed lately. You need to talk to her. I so much appreciate your support, and I know that they do too, because none of us want to feel miserable forever. I hope you have a safe, happy, fun, and healthy Labor Day weekend. Take care of yourselves, take care of your friends and family, and I will be back next Friday at 9 a.m., COVID-free, and on time. All right.